This year, we gave a whole lot of people something to be thankful about. We're going to talk about it on today's Hot Zone.
This is the Hot Zone. Engaging with the news in a whole new way, international war correspondent Chuck Holton brings insight into areas of crisis and lets you help those affected.
Hey folks, thanks for joining us today on the Hot Zone. The power is out here in Panama, so I'm running the entire studio on backup power. So if you hear a little beep, beep, beep in the background, that's the backup batteries doing their work so that I can bring this to you. That's how committed we are here at the Hot Zone to bringing you good content every day. And as I've gone back through the last year and I've looked at what we've accomplished, you and I have done a lot together. We've been all over the world, been to hot zones everywhere, and we've helped people everywhere along the way. This is what's so cool about the Hot Zone podcast is that I don't just bring you the news. I don't just go to the hot zones and show you what's actually happening on the ground, but I let you see and meet the people who are being affected. And when you get to meet them, then you get to reach through the news using the power of social media, the power of modern technology, and actually help those people directly. So you don't have to be so depressed about watching the news like normal when you go see all the horrible things that are happening around the world and you have absolutely zilch you can do about it. Now, with the Hot Zone, you can actually meet the people that are being affected, and almost immediately you can send money to help those people. And that's what we've been able to do around the world this year. I want to go back and just in honor of Thanksgiving, and I want to try to just remember some of the people that the Hot Zone podcast patrons have been able to help around the world. We started out in February in Syria. Before I even got to Syria, in Iraq, I met some refugees from the conflict, the fight against ISIS, who were living in a bombed out building, basically. And we got to help them get heating oil for the winter. These beautiful ladies are the matriarchs of some of the 14 families that live in this abandoned building on the outskirts of Erbil, the capital of Kurdistan. They moved in here 4 years ago after they were chased out of their hometown of Sinjar out in the western part of Iraq, and they had to flee ISIS. They've been living, basically camping in these makeshift shacks and shanties for the last 4 years. They get their water from rain that they collect off the roof. They don't have electricity per se. And, it gets pretty cold here at night. There have been 3 or 4 babies born to these people in the last 4 years here in this building. And you can imagine how cold it gets with these uninsulated shacks. So they are basically just biding their time. They can't go back to Sinjar yet because the situation there is still very dangerous. The city is still destroyed. There are no essential services, and still IEDs and explosives placed all over the city that haven't been cleared yet. And so they're just hoping against hope, waiting for the day that they'll be able to return to their hometown. And in the meantime, this is what they've got. In Kurdistan, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News. From there, I went on to Syria, and we, of course, were there in the end of the fight against ISIS, and we're helping hundreds and hundreds of civilians and ISIS families every day. And, we talked about that. It's kind of a moral dilemma there, helping ISIS families. Listen to this. So this is the other end of the stepped-up airstrikes as we try to really root out the last elements of ISIS in a place called Susa, right just a couple kilometers from here. We can hear the fighting going on, and this group of people just showed up who had escaped that area. This family behind me is only the father, the son, and the little daughter that are left of 20 people. The rest died when an airstrike hit their house in the middle of the night about 10 days ago. But it took them 10 days to be able to raise the money to pay ISIS to allow them to leave. And that's apparently what's happening. And so we're getting a better sense now of just the horrors of living inside that enclave, the last stand of ISIS. But, for me personally, it actually felt really good to be able to reach out and show the love of Christ to people in such a dark place. Whether or not they were families of ISIS fighters, really didn't matter. They were human beings, and they were in need. They were hurting, and we got to show them the love of Christ. And that's really what we're called to do. This is true charity, people. You know, it's not charity when the government comes in and steals your money at the point of a gun and taxes and then goes and gives it to somebody else in hopes of buying their votes. That's not charity. Charity is when you reach into your pocket and you help somebody who's in desperate need at the time of their greatest need. That's exactly what we're doing here. So from Syria, I got to go on to spend quite a bit of time in Venezuela. Here's a little bit of the kind of people that we got to help in Venezuela. Hi, folks. Okay, so we are in the grocery store, and I met these fine ladies here. I met these fine ladies out on the street. They live on the street. They're Venezuelan, and they're just kind of stuck. So what I decided to do, I got this idea. We want to help them out, but when you just give somebody money or something, you're taking dignity away from them. So what's better is to help them help somebody else. So the family I met 2 nights ago that is out in the same area where they live, where they're living, they're staying on the street, that family with all the kids, these girls are going to help me buy a bunch of groceries for that family, and then we're going to take it out to them and we're going to give it to them. So these girls are going to get helped too, but we're going to have them help somebody else. What do you think? Good idea? All right, here we go. All right, so here we go. I told them just to go get what they think the people would need, and I'm just following with the camera. There were a lot of products they had never even seen before. Buena idea. Para los niños. Me gusta. Tiene proteína y todo. So let's have the girls introduce themselves.
Wendy.
Wendy?
Jessica.
Jessica.
Hola, me llamo Orimeli.
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 Ori.
Oris.
Ok, Ori. Está bien. Y ella tiene carrillo. Pues, so I'm asking Jessica to explain to me what this store looks like to her coming from Venezuela. So Jessica is just telling me that this would be the best grocery store in all of Venezuela. She said in Venezuela, all these shelves would be empty. There's nothing on the shelves. And they're just walking around the grocery store here, which they've not apparently been in, and they're just in shock. Not only because of how much of everything there is, but because of how cheap everything is. It's pretty cool. Explíqueme lo que estás viendo aquí.
Que allá en Venezuela no podemos escoger.
So she's saying there's no choices in Venezuela.
Este no me gusta, prefiero este.
Yeah, she said you can't do that. You can't go, oh, I don't like this one, I want to take this one. She said there's only one kind if there's anything.
De que puedo comprar esta compota, pero no, prefiero este.
You can't do that. So they're just in shock over that. Pero los precios? So then I asked them about the prices, and they said, oh man, the prices are so much more expensive in Venezuela. And I said, wait, in Venezuela? And they said, yeah, they're cheaper here. So she's telling me that in Venezuela, one toothbrush would cost that much money. That is as much as,
Ahora aquí son 5.
yeah, as 5 of them here.
5.
Yeah.
5.
5?
5, por esto no sé
Very
hablar.
good. Yes. So then Oris was looking kind of funny and sad, and I said, what's wrong? And she said, oh, I'm just suffering here. She said, I'm suffering because I love chocolate, and there's just too much. So she's so frustrated because there's so many choices, and she's like, I love chocolate, and you don't understand how much I'm suffering here because there's so much chocolate to choose from. You can tell they're having a good time. They're taking pictures with diapers. ¿Y por qué quieres una foto de eso? So then I asked him why they were taking pictures with the diapers, and she said because she has 4 nieces back in Venezuela that would just love to be able to wear diapers like these. Oh, okay.
que todavía usa pañal.
So they would be amazed at all the diapers. So we ended up buying about $75 worth of food, and then we went to check out. And then I almost got run over by a taxi filming them coming out of the store. After that, we went out and got some pizza because we were hungry. And I was telling him about my buddy Mark Tomlett, who's 14 years old, but looks like Justin Bieber. And when they saw a picture, they were in love.
Hola, Marky.
It seems like every Latin American country has these crazy party buses that go by in downtown. So then the fun part came, driving the food down and dropping it off with that family with the 9 kids. And the kids loved the yogurt. Oh, tiene que abrirlo. Ay, no puedo. Muy bien. It's kind of hard to figure out where to stop because, I mean, you're obviously going to run out of resources before you run out of need in any situation like this. But I've always thought, well, you just kind of help the ones that God puts in front of you and leave the rest up to Him. Now, I've kept up with some of these girls, and let me tell you, they've actually done pretty well for themselves. Let's see. Oris and Jessica went on to Pereira to live with some family there where they've gotten work. They've been able to survive, and they're actually doing pretty well. I keep up with them on Facebook. Let's see. La Negra, the little girl who I initially found there sitting out there on the ground, sleeping on the ground. She went on to Peru. It turned out she was pregnant, actually, when we met her. We didn't know that, neither did she. But she has since had her baby, and she's gone back to Colombia where she met up with her mother, and they have been able to move back to Venezuela and are doing much better now, even though the situation in Venezuela is still very, very bad. So here's some more of the people that we got to help in Venezuela. Hola. So I just stopped this guy and asked him where he was from. He told me he was from Venezuela. I asked him how old his baby was. He said she was 1 year old. I said, is she sleeping? He said, yes. And then I said, okay, well, I'm here as a journalist. I said, but I'm also here just because I like to help people. And so here's 50,000 pesos. I hope they can help you. And he said what everybody seems to say, and that is, may God multiply this back to you. And so I said, can I pray for you? Okay. A minute later, I found another family sitting by the side of the road, so I stopped and talked to them too. I'm saying, hey, excuse me, we want to bless people that are out here. I know you guys have a really difficult journey ahead, very difficult. And there are people in the United States who love Venezuelans, who want to support them, and have sent you some money to help out with your journey. And it's all in the name of Jesus. Okay. And how old are you, little guy? 4? You look like you're 7. Oh, what a sweet, precious little baby. So are you guys thinking about going back to Venezuela someday? And he says, sure, one day, as soon as the government's gone. And I said, so what are you going to do in Bogota? And he said, we're going to go to Bucaramanga, and if we can get a job there, we're going to stay there. If not, we're going to go on to Bogota. We've got to find a job. Here, there's just nothing for us, he said. So then I just hugged them all and told them I loved them, and off we went. So that was just a little taste of the people that we've been able to touch, whose lives we've been able to change over the course of this last year. We're going to spend tomorrow talking a little bit more about that here Wednesday, and then Thursday and Friday we're going to take off. But just in the spirit of Thanksgiving, let me just say that, you cannot be thankful in general. Thankfulness has to have an object. You got to be thankful to someone. Thankfulness is acknowledging that you owe a debt to somebody and wanting to repay that debt. And so I would encourage you this Thanksgiving just to think about that. Who are you thankful to? Are you thankful to your parents? Are you thankful to your spouse? Are you thankful to your God? Because, you would not be breathing. You would not have woken up this morning if God didn't have a plan for your life. And I hope part of that plan is in joining us and trying to make the world a better place by just changing the world around us one person at a time. You don't necessarily have to go to Syria. You don't have to even follow me to Syria. You can find somebody in your neighborhood who's in need, and you can directly help them. You don't have to go through some big organization. Not that there's anything wrong with that necessarily, but you can help people directly right where you live. And I hope that this Thanksgiving, you'll think about ways you could do that. And because every time you do, when you sacrifice to make someone else's life better, you make your own life better. And it's a great paradox of life. So thanks for watching the Hot Zone. Thanks for being a part of it. I appreciate you all, and we'll see you again tomorrow. I'm Chuck Holton. This is the Hot Zone.
The Hot Zone is produced by Amy Holton and Livefire Media. Copyright 2019.